Hello, everybody. I'm back. Dr. K.K. Agarwal, President, Heartcare Foundation of India and Confederation of Medical Association of Asia and Oceania. And you are watching Med Talks with Dr. K.K. Agarwal, non-stop 128th episode. Let's have the headlines of the day. Russia's Sputnik 5 COVID-19 vaccines, that means two vaccines with human adenovirus 5 in 1, 26 in 1, reported to have an efficacy of over 95%, will be twice as cheap as those of Pfizer and Moderna vaccine with similar positive results. A new concept, vaccine tourism. Mumbai-based travel company offers 4-day COVID vaccine to United States. That's what we have talked in the past also. This is going to be to attract people to get the vaccine. PM Narendra Modi on Tuesday said India would go by the scientific advice in deciding which COVID-19 to use, emphasizing that safety is as important as speed. Even as he said it was a national commitment to provide the shots to all citizens. Yet another study emphasizes on the role of mask in COVID-19 says that COVID-19 pandemic could be stopped if at least 70% of the public wore face mask consistently. In Japanese government has scaled back its subsidized domestic go-to travel campaign due to the rapid rise of cases of corona-19. Let's have the topic of the day. As our commitment to all our viewers, we are bringing you the people who matters from every country. And today we have the Hong Kong experience from the horse's mouth. I have with me Dr. Alvin Yixing Chan. Alvin is the treasurer of Confederation of Medical Association of Asia and Oceania. He is the vice chairman of Hong Kong Medical Association CF and honorary clinical assistant professor DPAM at Hong Kong University. He is a pediatrician, founding fellow of the Pediatric Neurology, Hong Kong College of Pediatricians. He is also currently co-chairman of the advisory committee on communicable diseases of Hong Kong Medical Association. We are going to discuss Hong Kong model, number of cases and other things. And we will also discuss the Hong Kong wave of normal flu, which normally happens in this part of the year. So I would like Alvin to give his initial 10-15 minutes a presentation, and then we will have a discussion with him. Alvin. Alvin, you are not audible. You are not audible. Ritu, can you check? Saurabh, Ritu, can you check the mic?
Alvin, can you remove your hands-free? I think hands-free is not working.
No, your voice is not coming. So his connection got disconnected. Till then, we see Hong Kong is facing 86 new COVID-19 cases every day. The new figures could mark the highest daily increase since August 7, when 89 cases were recorded. The COVID cluster at a dance bar balloons to 80. A 7-day closure of bars, nightclubs, and bathhouse will remain into force on Thursday, but dance studios are allowed to continue operating despite at least 187 cases linked to dance clusters. Hong Kong finished its first universal community testing program on September 1. It ran for a fortnight. Through this universal community testing program, they found five participants were identified through contact tracing, but also got tested voluntarily. 5 more people who did not join the scheme were identified through contact tracing. 13 of the 32 new cases were asymptomatic. 20 of the 32 were local cases and unknown source of infection. 8 recovered patients were screened. We will know more about this, the Universal Community Testing Program, when Dr. Alvin joins us again. He currently is joining from Hong Kong, and there is a technical problem. In the meantime, let's have some questions from the audience if they want to. As far as vaccine is considered, I will send the invite to people early so that we can also have a discussion with them. So as far as the vaccine is concerned, everybody is saying I am 90% better. Pfizer says I am more than 90. Then came Moderna, I am 92. Then came Sputnik, I am also 95% effective. Then came the Oxford, though I am 62, but I am also 90. If I take 2 doses, the first dose is half. So they also, so every company now is looking for in which segment they are 90%. So they can confuse the people that we are also 90%. It is something like every player in cricket says, I am the best. Somebody will say, my first delivery is the best. My second delivery is the best. Somebody says, my fifth over is the best. So if you start looking for in some segment, you will be 90% better. And if everybody says, I'm 90% better, obviously, the public get confused. The Prime Minister has said, I will depend upon the experts which vaccine to buy. And whichever vaccine they buy will become, it will be a billionaire over a day. He or she will become billionaire over a day. So let's have a few questions till Alvin joins us again. My team is contacting him on phone. Renu Rakhiani ji बोल रही है, is it necessary to inject vaccines before corona infection as there is side effect? Obviously, अगर कोरोना के होने के बाद में वैक्सीन थोड़ी लगेगा. अगर वैक्सीन लेना है तो कोरोना से पहले ही लेना है, अदरवाइज तो वैक्सीन का मतलब ही नहीं है. आई एम फीलिंग कैनॉट सिट अंडर द फैन. ये ठंड तो लगती है ना, कोरोना के बाद में ठंड तो लगती है. कोरोना के बाद में ठंड तो लगती है. ये अभिषेक मुखी जी हैं. मेरी 38 साल की मैं लेडी हूं. मेरा पहला सिम्टम 8 को आया था, आज 25 है, यानी कि ऑलमोस्ट 17 दिन हो गए. लॉस ऑफ टेस्ट एंड लॉस ऑफ स्मेल, बल्ले बल्ले कोविड. RT-PCR टेस्ट ट्वाइस बोथ पॉजिटिव. बार बार क्यों करा रही हो, क्यों पैसे वेस्ट कर रही हो उसके साथ में? एक बार पॉजिटिव आ गया तो बार बार क्यों करना टेस्ट को? टेस्ट तो पॉजिटिव रह सकता है. वो कह रही है मेरा टोटल एंटीबॉडी टेस्ट भी पॉजिटिव आ गया है, बल्ले बल्ले. CRP 5 से कम है, बल्ले बल्ले. हीमोग्लोबिन 11.10 है. आप आयरन चालू करिए. जो लोग इस प्रोग्राम को देख रहे हैं, कल से हम एक स्पेशल प्रोग्राम 8:30 बजे रोज 20 मिनट के लिए चालू करेंगे. इन एडिशन टू 7 PM शो. दिस विल बी आवर 4th लाइव शोज इन अ डे. अभी तक हम 3 करते हैं, ये 10 दिन का स्पेशल शो होगा. एंड दिस विल बी डिवोटेड टू आयरन, आयरन एंड आयरन. A special show for 10 days. We already have a registration of 34,000 doctors who will also be participating. So we expect an attendance of 50,000 people attending that program for 20 minutes every day. And our campaign is, and our issue is, Bharat se low hemoglobin ko bhagao. Because low hemoglobin can be detrimental to us. So Alvin is back. Let's see. So Alvin is back. Yes, Alvin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Now we can hear you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. In Hong Kong, the COVID-19 has entered the fourth wave. Now, in Hong Kong, our first wave was in February till March. At that time, our cases came from mainland China across the border. And then at that time, we only have a few couple of patients confirmed with COVID-19 and just no fatality at that time. So, however, in the second wave, it is the influx of those coming back from UK, the students in the East. So at that time, there were less than a few hundred of confirmed cases, mostly imported from UK and Europe, and just 7 cases who died, mainly the elderly people who got infected. Now, these 2 waves were readily controlled at that time. However, the third wave came in July, and that was because exempted sailors who brought in the mutated D614G coronavirus, and then the taxi drivers brought the viruses into the community. And that was our tragic moment for the third wave from July to September. And then we have 4,000 confirmed cases. And then we have more than 100 who died, and mainly all were elderly patients. Now, this is because the government had exempted for testing and quarantine of those sailors coming to Hong Kong and the crew teams, all right? So at that time, because of the Father's Day celebration, and then also the celebration of the return of Hong Kong to mainland China, so there is a fatigue of anti-pandemic atmosphere. And so unfortunate that we have that third wave. Well, with the vigilant efforts of the government and also of the citizens, the third wave died down. In September, we only have 0 cases some days, and then single-digit cases of confirmed patients with COVID-19 until November. Now, our nightmare for the fourth wave arrived again. And that was again because of the exemption of imported cases from mainland China and also from those highly endemic pandemic countries like in the Western Europe, in Nepal, and then in USA. And then also because of the exempted cases across the border, the viruses were brought into the community via the taxis and also with the also the fatigue in anti-pandemic control. The citizens laxed down, and then we had the chain of spreading in the community. And so that's why so sorry that we had the fourth wave since last week, and now almost 100 cases a day. Yesterday is 80 something, and tomorrow is almost 100. And that is the recent development of the COVID-19 in Hong Kong. And yet, of course, it's still good in a way that the medical control have been good, and we have still 0 fatality for the health workers and medical teams. And this is good. And we also started to have the GPS control, WhatsApp, and also we would try to have some new measures to control the social distancing and restricting the universal masking for all the citizens in Hong Kong. And this is what we are doing in Hong Kong. Just now, I'm sorry that the connectivity here is not good. I hope you can hear me now. And I can see that Dr. Agarwal, you had placed on the screen the the occurrence of the confirmed cases of COVID-19, and we have those waves. And unfortunately, I think the government didn't learn the lessons well, and so that's why that's a recurrence of the third wave and then the fourth wave. All right.
So I want to come back to Hong Kong launched its first universal community testing program in September 1. Can you explain about that? How many people were examined and what were the results?
Yes, in Hong Kong, we had the universal community testing program from the 1st to the 14th of September. At that time, during that period, 1.78 billion citizens were tested, and the positive cases were only 42 at that time. And so, in fact, the occurrence of hidden COVID-19 was not serious at that time. So that was, in fact, at the end of the third wave. And we are using a combination of nasal swab, anterior nasal swab, and oropharyngeal swab. And we use the PCR testing for the spike protein antigen at that time. So we had the help from the mainland laboratory technicians. I think about 60 of these mainland laboratory technicians coming from mainland to Hong Kong to help us to do this massive screening. Just in Hong Kong, I think we just don't have enough laboratory technicians to finish the job within the short period at that time. So so that is the turnout rate is only about 1/4 of our population, 1.78 million, because our total population is 7.33 million. All right. So if we really want to have total population screening, we need it to be mandatory and not voluntary, because last time it's only a voluntary universal community testing. So with a universal community testing program, 1.78 billion, that is 1/4 of our population, is not satisfactory, I think. It's not really satisfactory.
What about simultaneously, this is the time for the influenza wave, the flu wave, the H1N1 wave. This is the time because last year in Hong Kong, because in mainland China, COVID-19 came, so the flu number of weeks was half the duration because of precautions
Exactly.
of Corona. Yes. Can you explain that?
Exactly. Yeah. So usually we will have a winter peak of influenza from January till March. All right. This year in 2020, the influenza winter peak lasted only for 6 weeks, and then it totally died down. And the total number of confirmed influenza cases was, I think, only 1/5 of the last year's 2019. And this was probably due to the effects of universal masking and social distancing and closure of all schools during the winter time. That is, the schools were all closed from kindergarten to primary schools. Were all closed from January to March, and of course the public examination still went on. The university entrance examination still proceeded, but all the schools are closed. And this is really effective in curbing the influenza epidemic. And so I think universal masking and the social distancing is effective in the control of these communicable diseases of the respiratory tract diseases.
Are the schools open now? What are the status of the schools today? What is the status of the schools now? Are they open, closed?
The schools had restarted this year at the end of September. The secondary schools are opened at the end of September, but the primary school and kindergartens only reopened in stages. So in October, all the primary schools, secondary schools, and kindergartens all are proceeding well until just last week, when the fourth wave, exponential rise of the infected cases of COVID-19, and also a surge of patients with upper respiratory tract infection in the school clusters, then our government had closed all the kindergartens and the junior primary school classes again. And so we have stopped all the kindergartens and also the junior primary schools now. And so in that case, in fact, it is, I would think, it's a lukewarm measure. In fact, because it just closed the kindergartens and also the junior primary schools. The senior classes of the primary schools still go on. And so that is, one child in a family didn't go to school, but the other two children of the family are still going to school. So in that case, that is, the chain of infection wouldn't be stopped. And the elderly people in the family are still susceptible to the viruses brought back from the secondary school students and also the higher classes, primary school. So I think the government should be more decided, more determined, and then perhaps all schools should be closed in case this exponential rise of the COVID-19 cases are continuing. There's no other choice. Otherwise, the elderlies at home will be vulnerable, I think.
And what about the status of vaccine in Hong Kong? What vaccines are likely to come?
Exactly. For the influenza vaccine, unfortunately, we don't have enough influenza vaccines imported to Hong Kong this year. And well, first of all, because as the winter peak of influenza early in 2020 is so minimal, and then the economy of Hong Kong is so bad in 2020, many doctors are worried that fewer patients or fewer children will come to our clinics for flu vaccinations. And so many doctors dare not purchase so many flu vaccines. So, however, then when the pharmaceuticals received less orders from the doctors, then they probably then had imported less vaccines to Hong Kong. Now that when people had more demand for this flu vaccine, because everybody are worried that with the COVID-19, flu, in fact, would deteriorate and aggravate the COVID-19 situation. Many citizens became panicky and they wanted to have the vaccines. And then there would be a bigger demand with inadequate supply now. And many doctors want to order more vaccines. However, the pharmaceuticals said, so sorry, we had not purchased enough. And now that they have to purchase the vaccines again, there's a time lag. The vaccines could probably arrive in Hong Kong only, say, 1 month later. And this is a big problem. Of course, there is, of course, a problem for the Sanofi last month because of the, some of the vaccinees in Korea and in Taiwan died. And they claim to have more complications coming out from the Sanofi flu vaccines this time. Almost 100 vaccinees had died after vaccination of the flu shots, I think, from Sanofi in Korea. And so this news had come to Hong Kong. As in Singapore, many citizens here became a bit worried and they refused to have the Sanofi flu vaccine in the clinics when the doctor told them the vaccine was from Sanofi. And this created some trouble because at that time, the momentum had somehow been halted. And many parents hesitated to let their children receive the flu vaccine from Sanofi. But however, 1 week later, when Singapore and also Korea authorities had confirmed that there's no association between the influenza flu shot vaccines with the mortality in Korea and Taiwan, Singapore Health Authority had lifted the suspension of vaccination of the Sanofi vaccine. The Hong Kong people had again got some in the vaccine again. In Hong Kong, the health authority had never the program of Hong Kong, but because of the news spreading from Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan, some of the parents had stopped advising their children to have the Sanofi vaccine. But after that 1 or 2 weeks, the parents regained the momentum to ask for vaccination. However, even they wanted to have the vaccinations, then there are insufficient supply of the flu shots. So that is the dilemma we had faced in October and November this year about the flu shot. About the COVID vaccines, we are very passive in a way because not produced, we had not secured the vaccines from the manufacturers, even the manufacturers from mainland China. The pharmaceuticals, say Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and BioNTech, they're not guaranteed any vaccine supply of COVID-19 to us before the second quarter next year. And even the mainland China pharmaceutical had not guaranteed any supply of COVID supply before the third quarter next year. So I think we cannot really have the promise anywhere So that's the situation in Hong Kong. So we still have
What
to do
about
social distancing in the masking.
what about University of Hong Kong and Xiamen University who are working on nasal spray vaccine for COVID-19? Hong Kong University of Hong Kong is working on a nasal vaccine
Yes.
with Beijing Wantai Biological Pharmacy Group.
Unfortunately,
that?
we only have scientific teams. We only have research. But we could not have the population for second and third phase trials. So we have to cooperate with mainland China and other populations in other countries. So even mainland China had to cooperate with Brazil or Indonesia or other places, still with a lot of confirmed cases, still with the pandemic. And in
Yesterday
Hong Kong,
only
we are more dependent, and we don't have manufacturing industry in Hong Kong. We only have the research. So when the research first phase was very good with very promising results, we still need to have cooperation with the manufacturer in mainland China. And with the collaboration with the mainland China manufacturers, we need to have the foreign populations, say Nepal, India, Indonesia, Brazil, to help us to do the second phase and third phase. So that's our difficulty.
yesterday only the Sinopharm, a company from China, who has already given an approval in China and UAE, that is a killed vaccine.
Approval.
They have applied for approval. And if they are approved, do you think that Hong Kong will have a tie-up with China to get the Sinopharm killed vaccine for its citizens? Or you are looking for Oxford?
I think won't put all the eggs in one basket. We will probably order vaccines from 2 or 3 sources at least. So I think Oxford one, mainland China one, and even I don't know whether the collaboration between AstraZeneca or Pfizer, BioNTech, these are all possible sources of vaccines that we will order. And in fact, for even in mainland China, there are 4 or more pharmaceuticals undergoing the third phase trial. And for Hong Kong one, I think it would not be available until 2022 at least. So we will still have to order the vaccines from whatever pharmaceuticals could promise us a sizable amount at the right time. I think what I heard from the health authority in Hong Kong, I think they didn't have any guarantee from any pharmaceutical to have the vaccine supply before the third quarter, even from China vaccine. And I don't know whether they will purchase vaccines from America, I'm sure. And I don't know whether there will be from Singapore. They are also collaborating with other pharmaceuticals to produce some vaccines. But I think the whole world, the developing or the developed countries, are asking for these vaccines. And I think Hong Kong vigilantly looking for vaccines that could be distributed to Hong Kong. And we are expecting at least 1/3 of our population could have the vaccinations.
So I want to ask you the last
and
question.
Even when
I want to ask you one question is that if given a choice, go ahead.
Yes.
I said I want to ask you a
What I
question.
want to. All right, thank you.
No, I want to ask you a question.
I
That if you are given a
all right.
choice and all the vaccines are available, which one you will take?
I myself probably, if there is, I think the vaccine from Oxford, I think, you know, you are asking me personally, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Because I studied in Oxford 35 years ago for the training of child neurology. I personally had confidence in the academic and also the research teams there. And, you know, a few months ago, they were very, very stringent and they halted their research after a major side effect. And that means they are very vigilant and careful, meticulous, and they have the integrity in doing the research. And so I think I would try the Oxford one if it's available in Hong Kong.
So let me have a couple of questions before I end the program. I have Varun. Varun, what do you want to ask?
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Agarwal. So today is my
Varun,
30th day.
this is a special show with Alvin. If you have a comment or if you want to ask anything internationally, ask. He is our special guest from Hong
It's
Kong.
now not here.
So if you want to talk to him or you want to ask a question, okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your question. Go ahead. Go ahead with your question. Today is
Sure.
your
So I wanted
Hello?
to check. Today is my 30th day in COVID. My CRP is 1.1 on 25th day.
May I?
But I have some shortness of breath like from last 2 days.
so Alvin, he is saying today is my 35th day. My C-reactive protein has become normal, but I still has some shortness of breath. That Varun can stay because of bronchitis. So you you ask your doctor to give you Seroflow inhaler. You will be all right. Yes, Rakesh.
सर टुडे इज माय 10th डे 10वां दिन है मतलब व्हेन आई वाज टेस्टेड पॉजिटिव तो मेरे को एक्चुअली एंजाइटी की बहुत इशू आ रहा है मेरे को पिछले 10 दिनों से कोई भी सिम्टम नहीं है
So this is anxiety. Alvin, he's saying I'm anxious, post-COVID anxiety. This is very common. This is very common. So this is very common. Nothing to worry. Take melatonin 3 milligram daily for a week. You will be all right. So I want to come back to what are the status of results because this is the last question. At another 2 minutes we are. What are the results of pediatric systemic inflammatory disease in Hong Kong? Multi-system inflammatory disease in pediatrics population.
Now,
Are you
sorry,
are you
because
get
now the audio connection. Hello?
okay? So there is some problem in the audio. So I'm only asking is, do you see
Now it's okay.
multi-system do you see multi-system inflammatory disease in children in Hong Kong post-COVID?
Very few. In Hong Kong, we have only one child with the multi-system hyperinflammatory syndrome in children, diagnosed in a Russian boy. You know, it's not a Chinese boy, it's a Russian boy living in Hong Kong. He had the fever and also cardiac involvement and also hepatic involvement and cytokine hyperinflammatory, hyperimmune response. Only one patient, and that was a Russian boy, and with luckily with a favorable outcome, he completely recovered. And otherwise, we have all of the confirmed positive COVID-19 cases in pediatric age group were very mild, many of them asymptomatic, and some of them had a little abdominal system, gastroenteritis, no pneumonia, not really this cases in the Chinese population, not also not in Indian population, because last time we had a seminar with professor from London. They had a case study. They had a study of their 85 children with the COVID-19. They found more than half of them are from Indian descent, and no Chinese too. In Hong Kong, we also have a sizable Pakistani and Indian population in Hong Kong, but there are also no children of Indian or Pakistani or Nepali and suffering from the multi-system hyperinflammatory disorders of COVID-19. Those are only a couple, perhaps a dozen, only a dozen of children has suffered from COVID-19, but that is very mild, almost asymptomatic. So I think that is fortunate for our Hong Kong children.
Okay, that's all. So thank you very much, Alvin, to be here with us and interacting with our population in India, sharing your experiences. Though you are calling it as a fourth wave, 100 cases getting. The country is so concerned. Even if you get 80 to 100 cases, in India we are getting 40,000 cases a day. So that's
But it's already better.
Yes, it's already better for that. So that's all for today. Let me thank Alvin to be here with us. Keep watching Med Talks with Dr. K.K. Agarwal. Tomorrow again, 7 p.m. we will be back with yet another show. Keep watching. Stay tuned. Namaskar. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agawa.